Hello, in this tasting I'm taking a look at the fourth of the wines from Kumeu River, the Chardonnays that I'm looking at from the 2025 vintage, and this is Hunting Hill Chardonnay. These wines have just been released by the West Auckland winery Kumeu River. The winery sits in the town of Kumeu, which is somewhere between about 20 minutes and half an hour's drive outside the centre of Auckland, and the estate has been owned since its foundation in 1944 by the Brajkovich family. It's currently run by a third generation of the family, 4 siblings, Michael, Paul, Milan and Mariana. These days their mother Melba has stepped back from the day-to-day running of the winery, but you can still sometimes see her around the cellar door. Kumeu is about 25 kilometres northwest of Auckland, which is at the top half of New Zealand's North Island. Kumeu itself sits just a little inland from the west coast and the Tasman Sea. The climate here is subtropical and it's moderated by the nearby ocean. Hunting Hill is so named evidently because this is where Matty Brajkovich used to go hunting, supposedly. It's a north-facing vineyard with heavy clayed soils and a slight southwest orientation. And this ensures the vines receive optimal sunlight that provides slow, even ripening for the fruit that grows here. Now, Hunting Hill was first planted in 1982, providing its first grapes to go into wines in 1985, and it became quite a significant part of the original Kumeu River Estate Chardonnay blend. Seen from the road, it occupies a slope above Matty's vineyard, and it always used to contribute a lovely ripe, rich Chardonnay to the overall estate blend. Now, Hunting Hill was replanted in 2000 because the vines there had been virus infected, so they were replanted with virus-free vine material, and that was Clone 15 Chardonnay. And now that those vines have matured, it's producing an even better version of that sort of lovely ripe fruit that has a distinct minerality. Now, there was Pinot Noir planted here as well. That was pulled out and replaced with Chardonnay in 2022. So yes, the replanting with Clone 15 took place 25 years ago. So those vines are now pretty much fully mature. And as with the rest of Kumeu River's vineyards, these vines are planted to a Lyre trellis to enable them to better harvest the vine's vigour in heavy clay soils and in an environment where annual rainfall is relatively high. Now, in 2025, the growing season overall was excellent. Conditions were mostly dry and warm, and although temperatures were consistently warm, there weren't many particular heat spikes. I think there were only 2 days over 28 degrees throughout the entire season, one of those in December and one later in the season in February. And this steady warmth without extremes was ideal for developing the fruit aromas and flavours. The dry conditions and restrained yields have contributed a rich texture and fullness that have ensured the 2025 Chardonnays are of excellent quality. The vintage saw a remarkably dry harvest. Harvest started on the 4th of February under beautiful conditions with the sparkling wine grapes. A week later, there was one fall of rain that constituted 17 millimetres, but other than that, conditions stayed dry and warm through to the end of harvest, with the last grapes in 2025 being picked on the 17th of March. And following on from 2 consecutive small harvests in 2023 and 2024, they remark that it's really nice to see normal levels of production again. There weren't excessive yields, but Kumeu River have achieved their normal output for the year, so there shouldn't be any issues with availability for these wines. As for the winemaking, all the fruit is hand harvested. Hunting Hill is literally just across the main state highway from the winery, so it takes very little time for the fruit to get to the winery. Everything is whole bunch pressed, and the juice is left quite cloudy for fermentation. Fermentation goes on entirely in French oak barrels. They use 228 litre Burgundian barrels, of which 25% are new each year. And the fermentations are allowed to start naturally as a result of the ambient yeasts that are coming into the winery on the fruit. And as a result, throughout the winery, you can have a number of different fermentations going on in each different barrel, each initiated perhaps by a slightly different yeast strain. And I'm told the barrels from the cooper Francois Frere are what they will aim to use for Hunting Hill. Evidently that cooper's style best suits the fruit from this vineyard. All the wine undergoes a malolactic conversion and stayed in barrel for 11 months until it was bottled in May 2026. The wine was allowed to age in barrel with a high level of solids, with those lees being stirred up occasionally to put them back into suspension. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? Here I have a beautiful medium yellow colour. There's perhaps a greenish hint to it. It's bright and translucent in the evening sun. It's very readily forming some tears on the side of the glass there. The wine has 14% alcohol, so that's helping to give a bit of weight to it. So let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? I talked about the style of Hunting Hill as having a minerality. There really is a wet stone, sort of saline aroma that is the first thing that I notice on the nose. However, that's very quickly followed up by a sort of a mealy nature, some toasty oak, some vanilla. Mealiness is a nice character because it's describing that sort of toasty oak with vanilla touches interwoven with some juicy white peach fruit. And the freshness almost sees that peachiness expand to a sort of a pineapple note. Slowly you get some really nice ripe fruit showing itself on the nose here. It's got good intensity, it's beautifully clean, and it is underpinned by that saline hint. So let's have a taste, shall we? The salinity and some really lovely fresh acidity. It's a lemony crisp, quite sharp, touch of tartness, liminess maybe, is my first impression on what is a completely dry palate. And then you start to see some flinty hints, and that ties in nicely with hints of toasty oak. There's quite a pungent creaminess that's almost sort of counterpointing the lemony crispness. And then that is leading through to a finish which is combining cedary and vanilla oak very harmoniously with some lovely peachy stone fruit notes. The fruit is lasting well on the finish, but actually the finish has exceptional length, and as a result of that sort of lemony crispness and its interplay with some flinty notes and some salinity. This really is quite classically Burgundian in style. It has quite a powerful hint of that sort of flinty reduction coming through. It's impressing me how the fruit is opening up, because actually there is quite a lean, elegant, mid-weight spine of that sort of reductive, flinty, saline character cutting through. But then that is being backed up by a weight of fruit, which has this lovely firm texture. There's a lot going on in this wine already, but I really suspect that give this 2 or 3 years, maybe slightly longer, fruit will start to open further and round out. The combination of its concentration and its acidity should make sure that it should age superbly. It probably is a wine that will show at its best with 7 or 8 years of bottle age, and there will be no hurry to drink it up after that. You could probably keep this wine in the cellar for 10 to 12 years very happily. In terms of its quality, although it's a little restrained, I do think this is an excellent example of Hunting Hill. I'd certainly be scoring this 94, and I'm beginning to think that actually maybe 95 is probably a better score for it, as that fruit has opened up so spectacularly on the back palate there. So thank you so much for joining me. I do hope you've enjoyed the tasting. If you have, I still have one more tasting to do. That'll be the Matty's Vineyard Chardonnay. So do please consider signing up, subscribing to my YouTube channel, and making sure that way that you set yourself an alert and are notified when I publish that. Do also look back at the other Kumeu River Chardonnay tastings that I've recorded and posted. So if you have enjoyed the video, do please press the like button. That would be fantastic. If you have any questions or comments, please pop those in the comments box below. And if you know anybody you think might like to watch the video, it would be great if you'd consider forwarding it to them. I'd really appreciate your support in that way. I'll leave a link to the Wine Searcher webpage for this vintage of this wine, so once it becomes available you'll be able to see where you can buy it and for how much. And on those pages you'll find plenty more information about the wine itself and the background to the winery. So thank you so much for taking the time to join me, and I do hope that maybe you'll manage to find some time and come and join me for another tasting in the very near future. Till then, bye for now.